Well, hello, welcome to the Confident Live Marketing Show. This is episode 175. And in today's episode, we're talking about how to get organized with a cool tool called Notion. I'd love to know, have you come across Notion? Have you played around with it? Are you a Notion addict or pro? Well, let me know in the comments. I've got a Notion Pro with me today as my guest. I can't wait to introduce her to you. And I discovered her on YouTube. I was looking around for, I think I searched for the two terms, ADHD and Notion, and Jenna came up and I got addicted to her videos. So welcome to the show, Jenna. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, the honor's mine. I'm so excited to have you here because it's funny, isn't it? Like I'm sure you've done this. You've watched YouTube videos. You have like your YouTube channels that you're like a massive fan of, and then you meet them like either in real life or on Zoom, and you think, oh, it's so exciting. It's kind of like
that's so cool for me to hear, because like I am the biggest YouTube fangirl of the world. Like I've been on YouTube since 2006. I uploaded my first video back in 2006.
Wow.
Which is crazy, on a different channel. I didn't put my face on camera until 2014. So I spent years just posting edits and just doing a lot of things. And I have become such a big fan of the platform. And so for years, I wanted to be a YouTuber. That was my dream, even in high school when YouTube wasn't even monetized yet. Like it was just brand new. So it's cool to see that people are, finally finding my channel after kind of switching topics and really getting consistent with it. It's been really fun.
No, it's been great to see your channel grow. And I mean, it's such a great channel. If you want to get organized, you don't just talk about Notion. We're going to be talking a lot about Notion today, but you talk about ADHD, you talk about getting organized, you talk about marketing as well. So it's like a perfect combination for this show. We could actually talk about so many different things on this episode. I think our biggest problem is probably going to be there's just too much to talk about and we're going to run out of time. But it's great to have you on, and I think it's time to get on with the podcast. So we'll do it right now. We'll be with you right after this. Hello, Ian Anderson Gray here. This is episode 175 of the Confident Live Marketing Show. In today's episode, we're talking about how you can get organized with the tool Notion. Shall we get on with it? I think we should.
Welcome to the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Helping you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video.
Optimize your mindset and communication and increase your confidence in front of the camera.
Get confident with the tech and gear.
And get confident with the content and marketing.
Together, we can go live!
Well, hello. It's so good to be back. I've had probably about a week off. Decided to have a little bit of time to work on a new project. I've got the course that's coming out actually tomorrow, if you're watching live, the Confident Live Marketing Toolkit. I'll go over a little bit more about that next episode, but that's what I've been doing. I've been busy. If you're watching live, welcome. Don't be shy. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And I'd love to know from you, have you heard of the tool Notion? Because that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. If you haven't discovered my podcast, this show is also a podcast. If you go to iag.me/podcast, you can follow in your favorite podcasting app. And of course, you can watch this live. You can watch this on YouTube, LinkedIn, and all the other places that we broadcast to here. Well, it's time to bring in my special guest today, who is the fabulous Jenna Redfield, who is a content marketing expert who focuses on creating and teaching organizational systems for small businesses who want to organize their clients, content creation, business, and life. She specializes in using and teaching the Notion and marketing one-to-one to clients, as well as on her YouTube channel. Welcome to the show, Jenna.
Thank you for having me, Ian.
It's a pleasure. And as I was saying just before we started recording for the podcast, it's so exciting to actually see you I know we're not meeting in person, but it's the next best thing, isn't it? Because I've been following your YouTube channel, kind of getting obsessed with it, because you have a bit of an obsession as well, it seems, with organization and Notion. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first of all, what is your YouTube channel? We'll talk about this at the end, but just because I do want to recommend that people check out your YouTube channel. And am I right in saying it's youtube.com/Jenna Redfield?
Yeah, it's like /C/Jenna Redfield. I don't know how YouTube does their URLs, but yeah, if you just type in my name, you'll find it. I'm the only Jenna Redfield in the world, so I have that on lock.
Wow, that's impressive. Actually, I've just done a little check, and if you put youtube.com/Jenna Redfield, you still get there. So
oh, really? Okay, good. Because I feel like I need to update my links. But yeah, I found with my name, it's I change because of my ADHD. I change direction over time. So having just my name over like a specific title, I think is easy to kind of just keep consistent with that.
Absolutely. It's the whole personal branding thing anyway. So I think for most of us, it's a great idea to do that. Well, we could talk about so many different things in this episode. We can talk about ADHD, we can talk about marketing, we can talk about organization, we can talk about mindset, we can talk about Notion. We're probably going to cover all of those things. But I do want to get into organization and using Notion. But first of all, how did you get into the world of marketing and organization and your YouTube channel? Just give us a kind of quick potted history, because I'd love to know.
Oh gosh, that's a long story. Well, I discovered YouTube in high school and I became obsessed as a viewer. And then I learned how to edit videos at about 16, realized this is what I want to do with my life. So I went to college and studied film production, and then went out to LA and did film production out there, and realized, no, I just want to do YouTube. I don't need to be in the film industry. So I came home, started my first business, filming weddings, actually. And that's kind of what got me into entrepreneurship. Slowly over time, I've had full-time jobs. I've had my own businesses, and I've just realized I love marketing. I love content marketing specifically. So creating videos that help market a product. I also run a couple of different organizations, including Twin Cities Collective. You see the little neon sign if you're watching this. I run that as well. And so over the years, I became a content marketing coach and consultant. And then with my YouTube channel, I actually started posting back in 2006, and then started this channel in 2014. It kind of was just whatever I wanted it to be for many years. And then during the pandemic, I really focused on making it niche down a little bit more. And I discovered Notion actually at the beginning of 2021. So I've only been using Notion for a little over a year. And then with ADHD, same thing. I only realized that I had ADHD in 2020. So both of these are new to me. Marketing is the thing I probably know the most about, just because I've been doing it for a lot longer. But I found that there wasn't a lot of overlap in other people's content. There's a lot of Notion YouTubers. There's actually not a lot of ADHD YouTubers, which is surprising to me, since there's a lot of like TikTokers and Instagram ADHD content creators, but not a lot of YouTubers. So I think just the fact that I'm making any type of video on ADHD has really grown my channel. And then combining that with Notion, which either people have heard of or they haven't, has been really great to kind of merge those together and kind of marry them. And like Ian found me because he was searching for both terms, and I'm one of the only people that are making content on both things. So I feel like I've kind of made my own niche for myself, which has been kind of fun over the last year.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I think it just shows you that niching down is often the best thing. Focus what you're excited about and what you have interest in. And that's what you've done. I can see Odie Miller from San Diego is here. Great to see you, Odie. Hope you're doing well. It's been ages since I've seen you. So I'm glad I saw this notification pop up. I so need help in this area. Me too. We all need help. And it's interesting. So you're younger than me, Jenna, but you are older than me ADHD wise, because I only got diagnosed last year. And but it just shows you, like, you've only been using Notion for a year. Yeah. But well, we'll talk about Notion in a minute, because I do want to know from you like how it's changed your life. But just this episode, we're not going to be focusing too much on ADHD. Suffice to say, whether you have ADHD or not, we're all wanting to be more organized. And I think Notion is going to help us there. And I'm sure it's helped with your YouTube channel as well, because this is a problem that I've got. And I was talking to you just before we went live. Oh, by the way, hello, Mel Bridger. Great to see you, Mel. Hope you're doing well. And let us know what you think about this subject. So, yeah, I was talking about the fact that with YouTube, it is one of my top priorities, but can I actually be consistent as I am consistent with this channel, with this live? And one of the reasons why I do live is because I know I will do it. I'm scheduled for this time. I'm scheduled with you. It's going to go live. It's some content that was going to then turn into my podcast. But with pre-recorded video, it seems more difficult. So I'd love to know from you, before we get on to Notion, what's your secret when it comes to recording your videos? Because you said to me some ridiculous statistic of how long it takes you to create your YouTube video, and not just create it, edit it, and publish it. Tell us more.
Mm-hmm. So because I've been editing videos for 15 years, I am very fast at it. I use Final Cut Pro. If anyone knows anything about video editing, it's about a $300 one-time fee. I don't use Premiere, which most people use. I just prefer to not have to pay monthly for a subscription. So I bought Final Cut on my Mac, but I record with my DSLR camera. I just set it up. It's constantly sitting right in front of me right now. I have my Zoom HR, which is like a microphone. So I literally just hit record. I record it in one take. I then import it into my computer. I edit, I add the intro, I add the outro, I cut any mistakes. Sometimes I add little what are they called, graphics if I need them. But my videos are usually between 10 and 15 minutes because that's kind of like the standard YouTube time. And it takes me under 2 hours. So like usually what I do is I record Sunday mornings is usually my YouTube recording time. And then I edit, and it's usually live by noon or 1 on Sundays is kind of that's usually my posting time. For the last year, I've been really consistent. I've been posting about once a week, and that to me is a great amount of time because that's just, again, like a good consistent thing. And just this past weekend, I did a social media detox, which means I deleted all of my social media apps for the weekend to kind of get my head on straight, because I get so distracted from TikTok and Instagram. But I actually planned out the rest of 2022 for all of my videos. So what I found was helpful is I actually made them based off of different months having different themes. So I just decided to do that. I've done that a little bit in the past, but I was like, you know what, this is going to help me stay focused and then also come up with more content ideas. So I have a Notion template that I actually sell, and I use it myself. So that's I made it very, very, I think it's ADHD friendly. To me, it makes a lot of sense. It took me a long time to kind of figure out what worked for my brain when it comes to planning content. But I think honestly, like the fact that I use it and actually like have a system is really important. Yeah, that's the template. So and I actually just did a video on it last week. So if you want to see me walk it through it, I personally think it has changed not only my business, but also my full-time job, which is being a marketing director. I literally use it for that as well. So it's been very, very helpful for writing down ideas for content and then also scheduling and planning them out.
That's fascinating. Well, it's definitely an inspiration to me. And I think organization has really helped me with this show, because I've been consistent with my podcast since May 2019. And it's all down to like planning, what is this show about, having that goal and a reason for doing it. So, don't just do it for the sake of it. So I think that's great. Now, Mel, who we commented before, she says, I suspect that I have ADHD, but I have yet to be diagnosed. I've always liked the idea of using Notion, but I struggle to use tools for organization. So I want to kind of go on to that, but just tell us maybe a little bit about your ADHD journey, because you're still kind of fairly new to this, 2020. How have you, did you think that you had ADHD for a while, or did it come as a kind of a bit of a shock to you?
Well, I always knew that I was different. Like I always knew there was something weird about me that was different than most people. But, especially in women, ADHD is very underdiagnosed. It's very much over the last couple of years that a lot more women are realizing that not only ADHD but also autism. So anything on the they call it neurodivergent sort of spectrum. For a long time, I knew the thing that I struggled with more than ADHD was actually anxiety. So I had anxiety my entire life, like since I was very, very young. And I've only recently been diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder, that was actually less surprising to me. um, but so for me, and those are actually, they're called comorbidities, which basically means that a lot of the times if you have ADHD, you're more likely to have uh, like anxiety, or sometimes it's bipolar depression, even things like dyslexia, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which I also have. It's called RSD. Like there's all these different things that kind of go alongside with ADHD. But so I figured it out in 2020 watching TikToks of all things. And then, obviously went and got professional help. And I was actually very excited. I know this sounds crazy, but when I figured out ADHD was the thing that I have been struggling with for my whole life, I was like, finally, there's an answer to how my brain thinks and all the struggles that I've had. I think it's been more of a struggle in adulthood, honestly, than in my childhood. So for me, like finding all of these tools and resources and people to follow, books to read. I'm a big reader. I like to like fix myself. So like I'm very much like I need help. So for me, I've just spent the last 2 years just really trying to understand ADHD and all the different things that means, because it's a bunch of different things. But I think really figuring out how my brain works differently than others has been actually like, so it's been so good. Obviously, the thing about ADHD that a lot of people still maybe don't know is like it technically is a disability. So like there are days that I just can't function sometimes normally. And having so many things on my plate, I can start dropping the ball a lot of times. So it's like figuring out systems that are automated that you don't have to remember to do them, because to me memory is a big issue of mine. Notion has been really great as a tool to kind of like be a second brain. I don't know if you know that concept. I just read the book Building a Second Brain by Tego Forte. He's a Notion user as well. He has a YouTube channel. I've really like figured out like, oh, I need like Amazon Alexa. I need Notion. I need these things to remember for me, because I'm not going to remember all the little things that come into my world. So anyways, that's kind of like a long story short. Like, I just think, a lot of women specifically, if you suspect that you have it, you probably do, because uh we just know ourselves, and like it's just something that again is like underdiagnosed. I think it's like 10% of the world has it. So it's not like it's that uncommon. And so I think really just going and figuring that out, and whether or not I'm not currently medicated. I know a lot of people do take medications, but just figuring out what works for you. For me, it's a lot of behavioral mindset things that I really work on every single day to just get better. I was telling Ian, I lost 25 pounds over the last year, mostly through just changing my habits and really learning that, a lot of this is just day-to-day things that I need to change in my lifestyle, that I think ADHD might have been holding me back before realizing this. So it's kind of changed my entire being by knowing this information.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's great to hear you've had a really positive experience with it, because not everyone does. I do know some people who were diagnosed, and in a sense, maybe kind of people who are getting later in life diagnosed, it's probably more difficult, because they feel, well, if only I'd known before. But the fact of the matter is, if you do, obviously we're not giving any medical advice in today's show. This is just our experience, but there is hope. There is some positivity, and that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. Is some technical stuff. You're so right, Jenna, about for my research into this. Apparently women do tend to mask the symptoms. I mean, not wanting to overgeneralize, women just kind of get on with their lives, and it's us men who kind of are completely say, "Oh, I can't cope." I think it's partly that.
Honestly, well, I think what I've read, and I've seen a lot of videos about this, is it's not as externally shown in women. With little boys, they're running all over the place. They're hyperactive. That's usually the signs. But with women, the hyperactivity is in the brain and it's not as like outwardly shown. So a lot of times women are internally struggling and don't know how to voice it. We also, sometimes, I don't want to get into like all the medical things, but like sometimes doctors don't always believe you. And I think for a long time, ADHD just wasn't seen as a woman's, I guess, disorder. And I think the pandemic honestly has really made people more vocal and going on social media and just talking about it. So I think just awareness is really important. And yeah, so yeah, you're right. I think with women, like that's why I like to be a voice for women and men. Like I would say my audience on YouTube is about 70% women. So it's like a lot of the women watching me, maybe they don't know. And so if I'm the one that tells them and can let them know, like these are some of the things that ADHDers struggle with, and then also giving them some solutions because I have had to, and that's the other thing, every brain works differently. Even ADHDers, we are not all the same. So I think finding what works for you and me just providing some examples is what I feel like I'm giving back with.
Definitely. And that's what we're going to do today. So like Mel, I hear you. You're saying 12 years of anxiety, depression. I'm definitely going to go and get diagnosed. And I've been the same with depression, anxiety as well. They can link a lot. So it's our pleasure. That's what we're here for, Mel. So let's talk about Notion. Why Notion and what is Notion? Maybe we should start with what is Notion and then we can go on to why.
So I get asked this a lot because I mentioned Notion. People are like, what is that? So to me, Notion is basically like a Wikipedia for yourself. It's a database system of organizing your thoughts, ideas, content, and it's a way to just organize your life. I use it for things that are physical. I use it for ideas. I use it for a lot of things. It is a software that you can download to your computer or your phone. I call it also a project management tool. So you can also use it on a team for work. You can use it for really anything. And what I love about Notion is it's so customizable. And I think that's why it works really well for ADHDers. Is a lot of the other project management tools like Trello, Asana, Airtable, ClickUp, they're very structured and they don't have a lot of flexibility. So if your brain doesn't work the same way as those, too bad. With Notions, it's super, super customizable. So however you look at things, maybe you're more visual, you want to see everything. Maybe you like things to be hidden, so you don't want to see them. I love Notion. It's kind of a blank slate and it has a bunch of different options. So I had used a lot of those other project management tools for years and I just couldn't get used to them. Only when I really dug into Notion and really got good at it and really spent time. One of the people I look up to a lot on Notion is August Bradley. I don't know if you've watched his videos, but he is my absolute favorite person when it comes to systems. And he really I spent an entire weekend just binging his videos and it gave me so much knowledge about how Notion works. And then also the system in which he does a lot of his stuff has been really, really beneficial to me. So I think for me, Notion, again, it's a software that helps you organize your thoughts and your life.
That's a really good way of talking about it. And yes, I have come across August Bradley thanks to you. And I think I've lost about 4 hours of my life so far, in a positive way, because he's so geeky. I think my concern was, and I think I mentioned this to you, that my only concern is that how deep is this rabbit hole I'm potentially getting myself down? But the great thing is, so Jenna has got Notion templates, and I think I'm right in saying this, Jenna, you've taken some of the ideas of what August Bradley has done, and you've tweaked them for you, particularly if you are more ADHD. So I really like that. You don't have to, the thing about Notion is you don't have to necessarily start from scratch. You can nab people's what do you call them, templates, I suppose. And there are some free ones you can get started with, or there are some ones such as yours where you can pay for them. But there's something about that it seems this really lovely ecosystem of productivity nerds. I mean, there's no other way to call it. It's productivity nerds. And we're all out to try and to improve. But my concern is, and I have heard people say this, that Notion isn't necessarily for the faint-hearted. It can be a little bit overwhelming to begin with. So how would you get started if you were, because I know you have clients, you teach people how to use Notion. What do you normally start with? How do you recommend people start with Notion?
I think the biggest, oh gosh, this is like so many ways I could go with this question, because I think to me, watching YouTube videos is the best way to get started, because I was very overwhelmed with Notion at first too. I had been using Airtable, which is similar to Notion, but also very, very, very different. It's kind of like Notion Lite, I'd call it. Like it's got the databases and it's got some different views, but like Notion is taking it like to the next level, and it is very easy to get overwhelmed. My recommendation is like, it's not going to be learned overnight. Like it's going to take, it took me months to learn Notion, and it did become my life, because I was like, but that's how I organize everything too. So it's kind of like, to me, it was worth the investment of time, because it has become basically like everything. I plan my meals in there. I use it for everything. I organize my house. It's become, again, like a second brain for me to have all the information that I need. So for me, I just spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos and then just trying things, just going in and testing. I think downloading templates is great, especially the free ones, to kind of see how other people think and how they set things up. Because sometimes you'll download a template and be like, I had no idea you could even do something like this. I'm still a year and a half finding that out. Like there's still things where I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So I think for me, like, but here's where it gets tricky. And I know you mentioned the rabbit hole. Don't just download a ton of templates and like never use them, right? Like that is the opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to come up with systems. And that is why August Bradley, to me, is a great teacher, because he's all about interconnectivity of the systems, of the different templates. If you have like a template for each thing in your life and they're not connected, it's almost like they're in their own islands and they're not talking to each other. So that's one reason why I launched my ADHD template, is I wanted them to all be interconnected, so that you are basically tracking all the things in your life, your weight, how many steps you're taking, what you're eating for breakfast, what you're wearing for your outfit. Like it literally can track all those things. And again, you don't have to do that. I just think if people want to, they can. And it's a way to kind of just see some patterns forming in your life. Oh, I probably, maybe need to eat less carbs because I've eaten pizza every day this week. So it's like you can kind of start to see and again, like document and journal and look back at your life and have it all written down for you. For me, my biggest thing I use Notion for is planning content and then like organizing my meals. I use it for business projects in my to-do list. So it is my literally my task list. And actually just this week, they launched a new property called Status. So basically it's like, is it in progress? Is it completed? Or does it still have to be to do? So Notion is constantly being updated. It's actually a $10 billion company. A lot of people don't know this. It has, I think, 30 million users at least. So it's a big company, and it's especially used by a lot of Gen Z. A lot of college students use it to study, to take notes. That's a huge one. So again, it can be used in so many ways. I don't even remember what the question was that you'd asked me, but
that's why we need Notion. That's why we need Notion to track everything down. Well, that's funny. Sure. I'm feeling very young now because I'm a Generation X person using.
I'm a millennial, so I'm like, so I even feel.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you a question and I've forgotten what it was. So this is why we need Notion. But I think what. Yeah, so what I was going to say about Notion, so I'm only just starting my journey with Notion. So I'm probably, I in a sense, I don't know that much about it, apart from the fact that it has databases in there. You can connect it with other databases. It's relational. Yep. And that really appeals to me because I have had an Evernote account for, I don't know, how long's Evernote been around? It's probably since the beginning.
Yeah.
And I've never really used it. And I'm using Asana. I'm kind of using Trello a bit. I'm using all these tools. Now, what I think is important to say is if you are using all these different tools out there, Notion can potentially replace all of those, but you don't have to replace all of them straight away. I think that's kind of what you're saying, Jenna, isn't it? That, this will take time. And I think, for example, I'm probably never going to completely get rid of Asana because my assistant uses Asana. She uses it really well. That's fine. But I think in terms of the stuff that I want to do, I think I'm probably going to want to use Notion. So I think that's just important to say. I think the whole idea of the second brain is really interesting because if you have ADHD, your prefrontal cortex doesn't work quite as well. So in terms of like, or your, what's the word? Your memory isn't quite as good at holding that information. And so putting stuff down is going to be really helpful. But can you expand on that, on the whole concept of the second brain and why Notion is so important? Whether you have ADHD or not, why is it so important for us?
Yeah, so I just read the book, so I'm like trying to remember all what he talked about. So Tiago Forte, like he kind of like coined the phrase and really just he has a ton of content on it. But basically, it's like having all of the content in your head outside of your body, right? So it's all the notes that you've taken, just anything that you've documented or captured that you want to at some point in the future reference. It's all the like, for example, it sounds crazy. And like, again, I've spent a lot of time in Notion. I've written down every movie I've ever seen, every TV show I've ever watched, like, so that if I ever am like in a conversation with someone and we're talking about something, I could just pull it up on my phone and be like, oh yeah, remember this one? So it's like, I like to have lists. I'm very much always been a list person. My lists have been not very organized, but I like to just have things written down so I can quickly find them. To me, search is a really big thing too with Notion, is you can just search a term and it will search your entire Notion, database or whatever, your entire account, and find, again, the matching term. So if you are trying to find something, it's easy to discover it. So I think for me, Notion and having it as a second brain, especially for ADHDers, is it's a way to just have and track everything that your brain is never going to remember. Again, like it's like a Wikipedia. It's like creating something, but it's for you. It's for your life in your brain and how you need to find things. But it's also not just a storage unit. It's not just a database for you to have a reference guide. It's also an action item list. It's also things that you need to be doing. So you're tracking, things that are current. One of the things he talks about in the book is like archiving. So it's like, if there's there's a project that you're not needing right now, archive it, but you still have it on record for the future. One of the things I do personally, I'm a big Google Photos user. I know that sounds crazy. Like I should do some more videos on my YouTube channel about it, because to me, Google Photos is like my absolute favorite app besides Notion. I store all of my videos, all of my photos in there. And what I do a lot is I screenshot things. So on my phone, if I find something interesting, I will screenshot it or I will download a photo, and then I have it just in my Google Photos. And to me, Google Photos is my other second brain, where any interesting fact that I see or TikTok video that I download, I find that having those to be able to reference and rewatch, because again, I won't remember it if I don't, have it on documented. So I think for me, a second brain is basically a tool that you use to just remember things. Honestly, to remember things. That's my answer. Yeah.
No, that's great. And I'm a massive fan of Google Photos as well. Like what a lot of people don't realize is the search is amazing. You could search for like dogs in snow. And it will find like how on earth does it work this out?
This happens to me when I'm with my friends all the time. Like you can have people. So if I wanted to find a photo with a specific person, you can like add them as like a name. And so I could just search that name and it will find every photo and the date. Like, so if somebody's like, when did we go to that thing? I could be like, search the location. And I'm like, oh, in 2016, we went there in January. So it's like, I literally within seconds can find different things that have happened to me in the past. And I have uploaded home videos to Google Photos of me as a child, my parents' wedding video. I have it. Like I literally have, especially as a content creator, sorry, this gets like another rabbit hole, but as a content creator, having footage and content that you can edit on your phone is so important. And so for me, I use Google Photos. I just did a whole training on Google Photos with a group I run, and like people were blown away by all the things that it can do. And Notion is the same way. It has so many capabilities a lot of people don't know. You can embed YouTube videos, you can embed Spotify playlists, you can like you can share it as a website. You can make Notion your website. Like there's so many features that a lot of people don't know, and you just kind of have to go down that rabbit hole and find out.
Well, hopefully we're blowing your mind if you're watching or listening to this. It's certainly so exciting to think about all these things. Is there some kind of integration between Google Photos and Notion? I did try and embed. I think I did send a Google Photo to Notion, and it did. I think it did work, but yeah, I don't know if there's a way of kind of.
You can embed like an individual file, but it's just like a link. It's like a shortcut kind of a thing. So I guess technically you can, but not really. I honestly, a lot of people don't know this, but there's actually some good integrations between Google Photos and Canva. So you can actually connect Google Photos to Canva, and that's how I actually use. If I'm making content, I can literally just sync it, and so I don't ever have to import videos or photos into Canva anymore.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of people don't know that. So like again, I make a lot of content, so for me, like that is my like domain is like just keeping track of all the photos and videos that I have from the past, and then obviously creating new stuff. It's just, you know, it gets overwhelming, and there's a lot of different moving pieces. So it's like you need something. It doesn't matter what it is, but you need something to be able to track it down. And one of the things that I teach a lot, which I should do another video updated again, is August Bradley's pillar system. So that is how I actually organize not just Notion, but my Google bookmarks, my email. I basically have the 13 different pillars and then have categories within those. That has been probably just as much game changing for me as Notion has been. So like just figuring out, again, organizational systems that fit with your brain has been super valuable. And I think for me, it's just watching different YouTubers, seeing how they work. Maybe they've come up with a system. Some of them work for me, some of them don't. I just think it's like finding just being exposed to them and figuring out what works for you is really important.
Definitely. So I suppose we should like briefly talk about the pillar system, just because people aren't necessarily going to know what this is. And correct me if I'm wrong here. They seem to be like divided into like 3 sections. We've got, is it growth, business, and home life or whatever?
It's home for me. Like, and I've kind of edited his
a
little bit. Yeah, so it's home, business, and health is kind of the 3 like bigger main pillars. I could probably go and grab, let me see if I can find, I have like it, I literally have it in Google Photos. So what I've done is, one of the things that's really cool about the pillars too, is I've actually assigned colors to each pillar. So I've actually, let's see if I can find it. Okay. So under home, I've added one that he didn't have, which is entertainment, because I love to watch movies. I love to watch TV, and that wasn't really like a category. So under home, I have entertainment, family, friends and social, home and household, personal finance, and then travel. So that's under home. Under business, it's business projects, clients, content creation, sales and marketing. And then under health, it's health and fitness, which includes like food, working out, mental clarity, which is like ADHD, mental health, and then mind expansion, which is learning, education, courses, books, etc. So I now have organized, I have like a whole presentation on this. I have organized all of my folders in any type of software that I'm using into those 13 pillars. And that way, like, for example, I'm not going to have food stuff in the same folder as like business stuff. So it's like you kind of have to separate your life into different categories as a way for you to quickly find what you're looking for.
I think that's really helpful way of doing things. And I've started to think about doing that with my email and things like that. I found that really helpful. So, and some of these things may seem a little bit over the top. I have to admit, Jenna, when I watched your video on like the entertainment side of things and like listing all your like, I thought that's a bit extreme. And then I started to think, actually, you know what? That's actually really cool, because I've probably been in those situations where like people said, have you got any movies that you'd recommend? And I can't remember any of them. So if I had them written down, and it's the same with like travel, I was thinking, when did we go? We went to Spain, but I can't remember when. And I've got Google Photos, but if I had a Notion table for those things, that'd be really helpful. I want to, before we talk about marketing, because I do want to talk about content and marketing when it comes to Notion, how do we get those ideas into Notion? So we've got, maybe we're going on a walk and we suddenly come up with an idea, that we want to, it might be off our to-do list, or it might be a photo of something. We want to take a photo of something that we've seen that's going to inspire us, or maybe we want to make a note, like a voice note or something like that.
Yeah.
How do we get those external things? Or the other thing is, like, what if we want to draw something in a kind of in a normal notebook, like not an e-notebook?
Yeah.
How do we get it into Notion?
Okay. There's a couple different options. If you're legit on a walk and you like don't have your phone, or if you just have like I always recommend getting an Apple Watch if you don't have one. I think they're great, especially for ADHDers. I have a whole video on it. The Drafts app actually allows you to kind of auto transcribe your thoughts, because you're right, we have these thoughts at random times. But one of the things that I just read this book this weekend called Redeeming Your Time. It's a great book. It's kind of like summarizing a ton of different self-help productivity books. But one of the things that the author talks about is it's kind of like the getting things done method, which is David Allen wrote this book like 20 years ago. But one of the things that I really stuck with me from that book is having like what's called an inbox list. So there's a concept called open loops. I don't know if you've heard of this, where in your brain, like if you haven't finished something, you have something called an open loop, and it just stays with you. Like I have to remember to get this done. Writing it down helps alleviate that from your brain so that you can focus on other things. So one of the things I've recently done with my to-do list is I'll just write down like a super quick like note. Like it doesn't even have to make sense. Like it's just like, as long as I know what it is, just writing it down. And then later that day or later that week, actually adding it to like your to-do list. So you have an inbox list, and then move it over into a project. So if it's part of a larger project, usually there's a couple steps to do for that. So I'm a big fan also of Otter, which is a live transcription thing. I use that all the time, especially if I'm writing something or need to just voice my thoughts. It will just auto transcribe and capture everything. You can copy that then into Notion. There's a million different ways to, again, capture the information. But so capturing it's like the first step, and then organizing it. And then, yeah, this is actually, so capture, organize, distill, and express is called code. And that's what's in the Second Brain book. So that's like actually like a system. But for me, what I found is if it's in my brain, I need to get it out. So if it's writing it down, take a picture of it, put it into Google Photos. Google Photos, you can literally like take the picture and like copy the words and then copy and paste it into Notion. I use Apple Notes a lot just for like quick thoughts. So I could go into Apple Notes, copy that into Notion. Again, like it's just getting it out of your brain instantly is important. And then maybe later organizing it in the way that you need to. So for like content ideas, writing it down and then moving it into your content folder under like ideas or potential ideas is what I call it. There's just like, yeah, you're right. Like there is a lot of different ways you can do it, whether it's auto transcription, whether it's just writing it down on a notebook. I know one of the great apps that works with Notion is called Miro. It is a, how do I describe it? It's like a whiteboard app. So if you ever need to like brainstorm, brain dump, you can actually like have it embedded on Notion. So if you want to see like a brainstorm session, you can embed it inside of there. Also with Apple Notes, I have an iPad, so I could use my Apple Pencil and write some stuff. And I've actually done that using Apple Notes. You can actually draw in Apple Notes. A lot of people don't know that. So you could screenshot that, put it into Notion. There's literally a million ways to do it. It's just figuring out, again, what works best for your brain.
Wow, that's amazing. I can see DJ Mega Aim Productions is here. Great to see you, saying hello. And we've also got a question from Royson watching on LinkedIn. Welcome. Great to see you. I have been using Notion recently to run online workshops, creating individual workshops for participants. It worked well, but I think I have a lot to learn. I didn't realize the full potential. And yeah, I think we're probably never going to know everything about Notion. I think we just probably have to be okay with that. Would you say?
Yeah. And I think what she's talking about is like, you can set up like courses sort of. They had some apps that were able to run courses and things, but yeah, like I've used it as like a client portal. So basically you give someone, either you can share them with them the link and then they make a duplicate. There's like a bunch of different things to use it for. Yeah. It's like, you just have to spend time watching videos, doing research, testing it out for yourself, seeing what other people are using it for, and then you will see if it works for you. But I find it works for a lot of things, and it's instantly updated. One of the things I use it for, a lot of people don't realize, is when people sign up for my email list, I give them a Notion board full of resources. So instead of having like a website, it's literally a Notion board. They can duplicate it into their Notion. And then all it is a ton of different links and things that I have gathered. And then what's cool is it's not like a PDF that you have to constantly update. I literally can update it and it will automatically update for whoever new downloads all the information next. So, creating templates, creating resource guides, there's just a million things you can use it for.
That's, yeah, really amazing stuff. So that app you mentioned where you can like draw stuff, was it, you said Miro or something? How
yeah, Miro. It's like a brainstorm diagram app. I think it's free. You can use a couple of different boards. It's great for like teams if you're on a retreat and you're trying to like gather a ton of things. So like for me, I made like a funnel outline. So it was kind of almost like a diagram. So you can then embed that, because that's the nice thing about Notion that a lot of these other platforms don't have, is it has embedding options. You can embed different apps into it, which a lot of them don't. So whether it's a YouTube video, whatever, like you can embed other apps into Notion. So yeah, Miro is a great one.
That's great. And yeah, I love the Apple Watch idea. I've been playing around with that. And if you are an avid reader, now I have to admit, I struggle to read proper books. So I listen to audiobooks, but so this is not perfect, but if you have the Kindle version of it, you can sync the two together.
Yeah.
And then there's an app called Readwise, I think, which allows you to send your highlights over to Notion. I've been playing around with it, but so there are easy ways, because I think at the end of the day, for me at least, I want to make this as easy as possible to get the stuff into the second brain. I think that's really important. So we've talked about idea capturing. I want to get into content creation. We talked about at the beginning how consistent you are, Jenna, with your YouTube. And of course, you don't just do YouTube, you do TikTok and Instagram Reels and all this other stuff. How does Notion help with your content marketing, creating this content on a consistent way?
So I guess, let me open up my, so I can see it. But basically, one of the things I learned while designing my current template, which is a content creation template, is I used to do it where I would just have a list of all the things I've either want to make or I have made in the past. And what I realized is that it gets overwhelming to see all that content in just one big list. So what I've done is I actually organize it now by date. So because I'm creating multiple pieces of content, even for one day, so say it's June 30th as we're recording this today, I might have 2 TikToks, a YouTube video, and a Pinterest post, and a Facebook post. So I'm not going to have each of those as like a separate thing. I'm actually going to go by the day and then have related databases for each type of content. So for example, if I'm sending out an email, I would link it to my email list board and have it related. And it's literally in my template, so you can see it. But it shows me, and I can schedule that out. So for example, if I wanted to plan the rest of my YouTube videos, I can literally choose the dates for the rest of the year and then go over to the database that is my YouTube channel list and then just see them all. Not only upcoming videos, but also past videos. I track analytics. You can embed YouTube analytics. A lot of people don't know this, but so for me, I like to use it as a brainstorm. So I can have like ideas. Then once I have them just in my potential idea list, I will assign them dates, maybe organize them by, themes. So for me, like I have planned out now the rest of 2022. So I know exactly every week what video I'm making. And so then I can see on my calendar list, like, okay, so I have to send out an email on Tuesday, and then it links over to the email. So I have that, drafted. It's just a great way to, again, see all of your content. They actually recently changed the databases just in the last couple of months, where now you can have like different views within a database from other databases. So now I have a list of just all of I got my YouTube, my Instagram, my TikTok Reels, and my email. And I could just kind of copy or jump to the different ones to see what's coming up this week, because again, you want to make sure that you know what's going on currently. And so for me, again, with ADHD, like if you don't see it, you'll forget it. So having it viewed both from a date perspective, which is like, all right, so June 30th, what content do I have to put out? And then also seeing them like, this is what my YouTube videos are coming up. This is what my Pinterest posts are. This is what my email list is. It's kind of like the two different views that I think in like, just thinking about how most people think, that makes sense to me. I'm like, yeah, I can see it by date in one list, and then see actually the list of the ideas and concepts.
That's really interesting. So I use Google Sheets at the moment, and I've used that for ages. But the problem I've got with that is that because I'm doing lots of different types of content like YouTube and then like social media and live video, podcast, it ends up being like this ridiculously massive like spreadsheet.
Exactly.
But presumably in Notion, you can like, I don't know where you call it, tags, or you can have different. How does that work? If you have like do you have like one big list of all the content and it's tagged in a different way?
I used to, and that's what I found works better, is to separate them by I call them platforms. So like I will have all of my emails. I don't know if I could share my screen. I could literally show you kind of what it looks like. I don't know if you want me to do that. Let me show. Yeah, so I'll cut over to this. So you'll see here I have my dates over here, and then I have
If you just give me a second, I just need to bring it in, and then we can see it on the screen. 1 second while just talk amongst yourselves.
Sorry. I think the hard thing about Notion is sometimes it's hard to like explain it unless you see it. And that's why I could never do a podcast on Notion, because I'm like, it's a little bit too visual. So if you're watching the live video, actually, let me close this. So you will see that I have by date. So this is part of my template as well. So again, like I haven't filled all of this out, but you'll see, like, for example, June 26th, that was how to make and sell Notion templates. So I published that, and you'll see it's a relational database to all of my YouTube content lists. So you'll see I have all of my upcoming here. And then these are just ideas that I haven't actually put a date to. So this is my like just my YouTube content list. But if I go back, you'll see like I can see I have Pinterest posts, Facebook posts. So if I wanted to, I just find the one and I can link it here. So each of these are their own databases. But if you want to see them all, and then you can add filters. So if I wanted to add a filter where the status is and you can change it to like is not complete, I can literally see all the ones that I still have to do. So like you can literally view it however you want. I could stop sharing. I just wanted to like, and then another thing is like I created now marketing projects. So like I have like just email as a project, and then that's a folder, and then I have an embedded, sorry, this gets into the weeds, but basically I found a system that works for me and my brain. And it's taken over a year of trial and error to figure out something that works for me. And that's why I'm really excited about my template, is I'm like, this works for me. It might work for other people. You can obviously customize it however you want, but I've just found that like, as someone who comes out with multiple pieces of content sometimes in a day, sorting it by day to me made more sense than having just a huge list of every single piece that you need to get published.
That makes sense. So like the different databases, but with Notion, you can bring them all into one view. That is mind blowing. And yeah, this is quite nerdy and geeky, but this is exciting stuff because it really, it saves you time. It helps you from overloading your brain. And like, especially if you have ADHD, but even if you don't, we can get overloaded. We don't want that. So if you want to find out about Jenna's templates, if you go to, I think I've got this right. It's Jenna Redfield let's start again. JennaRedfield.gumroad.com. That's JennaRedfield.gumroad.com. Check them out. They're really good value as well. So, and just have a look at all of them. You've got so many different ones there. You've got one we've been talking about is the content. What's it called? The content calendar?
Content calendar template. Yeah. It's like a marketing content. Like I find that one is my favorite template I've ever made. And it's only $15. So I think it's a really good deal, especially if you're doing content, and I update it. So it's like whenever I make a discovery, I will go into the template and change it, and then you will get the updated one. So even if you've already bought in my template, you can download it again with the updates. So that is one thing, is it won't update it for you unless you re-download it again. But you have basically unlimited access to any updates if you want to re-download it. But yeah, I've loved selling templates, and that's something that I found has been kind of a unique thing about Notion, that a lot of other of these softwares, you can't sell templates really. Like Notion you can. So it's really nice that it's another like passive income thing for me as well from a business perspective. And it's like I have some free ones on there. I have like one about skincare, one about like organizing using like the KonMari method. So yeah,
I noticed that. I think I might be getting that one as well.
Yeah, that one is just it's pretty basic. It's free, but it's if you need like a checklist. So
it's good, and you've got the whole life tracker. If you want to go deep, then that's probably the one to go for. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Jenna. We're almost out of time. Odie is saying this podcast has been so helpful. I'm so glad, Odie. That's what we aim for here. Just before we finish, like what are some of the things that are missing in Notion at the moment that you would love to see happen?
Okay. I got some.
Yeah. Or I know. Like all the Notion users, they get really passionate about this bit. Like there are obviously, I'll put it over to you.
The number one thing I always hear, and it's the one that I also agree with, is recurring tasks. There are hacks, but nothing concrete. So last year, Notion announced that they bought Automate.io, which is an automation tool. And I think they are probably behind the scenes building out some really cool stuff, including recurring tasks. I have a feeling that is coming because it is probably the number one request from people is if you have a task, you can't unless you duplicate it or use like Zapier or something, like you can't bring it back in. Like ClickUp, which I used to use, it does have that feature. So I would say that one. Also, with the calendar, I wish there was a week view. Right now, it's only a month view. And I think that I read that they just also bought a calendar software called Cron. And they also are going to be integrating with Google Calendar. So I'm not sure again. So some of the updates are coming. But overall, like Notion, to me, I love that they constantly are updating it. And I think that there is definitely room to grow. Just as a user, I'm like, there's definitely things that I wish were better. But overall, like, I'm pretty happy with most of it. And I just think sometimes as a power user myself, like there are things, I can't even think of any at the moment. But overall, I love a lot of the functionality. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's never going to be such a thing as a perfect tool. It's always going to be something out there something that's frustrating. I hope the Google Calendar thing is going to be more of a thing because I'm a massive fan of. I use a tool called Fantastical, which brings in like Google Calendar and stuff like that. So I hope that's going to work. We are out of time. Royton says, "Thank you guys, really informative. Thank you so much for enjoying the show, Royton. It's been great to have you here, and thank you, Jenna. How can we find out more about you? Where's the best place? Obviously, there's a YouTube channel, so that's just search for Jenna Redfield on YouTube. But where's the best place?
Well, so if you like marketing, I do have a Facebook group called Marketing and Notion. I also have one for ADHD called ADHD and Notion. And then I'm also on Instagram and TikTok. Those are probably the places I go to most. I'm on Twitter as well. I don't go on there as much. I'm on Facebook. I'm literally on every platform. So if you search my name, you'll find me. So
yeah, that sounds like me. I'm not so much on TikTok. I did post on TikTok. I need to.
Oh, TikTok's so fun. I love TikTok. You need to get on there. It's amazing. Just post clips from this show. Just edit them and make them. It'll work. It's great.
I know. I have done it. You should have a look at my silly theme songs. So I will be creating a theme song for this video. I'll be singing a song about you. But that's a whole other thing. Odie says, a lot of the tools discussed I use in part to try to stay on track. I'm highly intrigued with the idea of building a better second brain. I think we all are. Thanks, Odie. Well, thank you, Jenna. It's been great to have you on the show. Do check out the Gumroad as well at jennaredfield.gumroad.com. But we are out of time. Thanks, Jenna. It's been great to have you on.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's been great. Well, that is it for this week. Next week, we've got some really cool things happening. We're talking about imposter syndrome next Tuesday. imposter syndrome. I feel like I need to put on a dramatic voice with loads of reverb on that for that. But that is it for this week. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And until next time, I encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of Confident Live Video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Make sure you subscribe at iag.me/podcast so you can continue to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video.
And until next time,
Toodaloo.